Listen, I need you to hear this. I'm 83 years old, and for most of my life, I misunderstood something very ordinary. I thought I understood what work was, what it was for. I didn't. My name is Peter. I was a municipal records clerk for the city. From 1968 until my retirement in 2005, that's what I was. My job was to receive, catalog, and file every single piece of paper that needed to be kept forever. Deeds, permits, zoning variances, council minutes. The paper came in, I stamped it with a date and a sequential number. I entered that number into a massive leather-bound ledger, and I filed it in its proper drawer in the basement archives. My kingdom was a long fluorescent-lit room in the City Hall basement. It smelled of dust and old paper and the particular sharp scent of the mimeograph fluid from upstairs. My routine never changed. The clock on the wall, a big round one with a sweep hand, dictated everything. 9 o'clock, start sorting the morning's intake. 11:30 lunch at my desk, always an apple and a cheese sandwich. 1 o'clock, resume filing. 4:45, begin tidying my work table. 5 o'clock, the click of the light switch. I took immense pride in this, in the order of it, in the fact that if anyone ever needed a document from 1952 or 1977, I could walk directly to the right cabinet, the right drawer, and place my finger on it. I believed completely that my responsibility was to the system, to the integrity of the record. That's what I told myself. That was my flaw. The conflict, when it came, wasn't a conflict at all. It was administrative, quiet. In the late 90s, the city decided to streamline. A consultant came through. He wore a very nice suit. He said our process was a bottleneck, that the throughput was too slow. He proposed a new rule: any document that wasn't accompanied by a fully completed department-signed transmittal form would be returned to the department of origin, unlogged. No exceptions. It made perfect sense. It would force the departments to be tidy. It would prevent me from having to chase down information. It would make the system more efficient. Any reasonable person would have agreed. I was the one who championed the new rule. I even drafted the memo about it. I posted it on the bulletin board by the basement door. I saw it as taking ownership, being proactive. Her name was Mrs. Ellis. She was from the Parks Department. She'd bring down the monthly maintenance reports, the equipment inventories. She was probably in her 60s then, quiet, with kind eyes. She always asked about my son, who was having trouble in school at the time. The rules started on a Monday. That Wednesday, she came down with her usual bundle. I flipped through it. The new transmittal form wasn't there, just the old cover sheet she'd always used. I explained the new policy calmly, professionally. I said I couldn't accept the documents. She looked confused, a little flustered. She said she hadn't seen the memo, that her supervisor was out, that she didn't have the new forms yet. I was polite. I held up the memo. I said I was sorry, but rules were rules. The system only worked if we all followed it. I remember. She just nodded, didn't argue. She gathered the papers back into her arms. She said she'd come back. It's just, she said very quietly, it's a long walk for these old knees. I offered a bland smile. The new forms should streamline things for everyone, I said. She turned and went back up the stairs.
The immediate aftermath was
neutral, efficient, a relief even. Departments grumbled, but they started using the forms. The paperwork was cleaner. My ledger entries were more consistent. The consultant's report praised the increased efficiency in records management. Mrs. Ellis came back a week later with the proper form. She never said another word about it. We went back to our polite, distant interactions. She retired. A few years later, there was a small cake in the Parks office. I didn't go. I heard she moved to be near her daughter. Years passed, decades. I retired. The clock was taken off the wall. The ledgers were scanned. They turned my basement into a server room.
The object was a staple remover.
A cheap, sprung metal one, painted red. It was on the edge of my work table for years. It must have been left by someone, maybe Mrs. Ellis herself, during one of her drop-offs. I never used it. I had my own good one. But it was just there. When I cleared my desk on my last day, I swept it into a cardboard box with a few other desk detritus paper clips, a dried up pen, a chipped mug. That box sat in my garage for 15 years.
The realization didn't come suddenly. It came last spring.
My great-grandson was doing a school project on the history of our local park. He needed a primary source. I thought, this is my moment. I know how to find this. I called the city. I was transferred. I explained who I was, what I needed. The young woman on the phone was pleasant, but vague. She put me on hold. She came back and said the records from that period, the physical ones, were in deep storage, that the search would require a formal request, that it might take weeks. There was no one, you see, who could just walk to a drawer and put their finger on it. The system was better. It was digital, but it had no memory, no hands.
I got off the phone and just sat in my chair.
And I thought of Mrs. Ellis's knees, the long walk down to the basement and the long walk back up. I thought of her quiet nod. I hadn't been cruel. I hadn't been ignorant. I'd been responsible to the system, to the rule. My attention was aimed at the ledger, at the consultant's approval, at the pristine flow of paper. It was not aimed at the woman holding the paper. I was there in that basement room with her, but my attention was aimed somewhere else. I had mistaken the system for the purpose, the rule for the work. The work was the park. The work was the kid who needed to know its history. The work was Mrs. Ellis's knees, and the fact that she remembered my son's name. I guarded the record of care, but I failed to care for the person bringing it to me.
But the lesson isn't about being kinder.
It's about where you aim your attention. Your phone is my ledger. Your efficiency metrics are my consultant. Your staying in your lane is my pristine rule. You are optimizing a system right now. You have a rule that makes perfect sense. Return the email without the proper subject line. Reject the request because it used the wrong portal. Click ignore on the message that seems messy, that would take 10 minutes to unravel. Any reasonable person would do the same.
But who is walking up the stairs with the bundle in their arms?
What old knees or young confusion or quiet struggle Are you not seeing because your gaze is locked on the protocol? The system you are perfecting, what is it for? Is the customer service chatbot handling the complaint? Or is it just protecting the flowchart? When you mute the unproductive colleague, are you streamlining the meeting or are you deleting the person? The thing is, you won't get a dramatic confrontation. You'll get a quiet nod. They will fade. They will retire. They will leave. And you will be left with a more efficient, a more silent world. And one day, you will need something that the system, for all its perfect rules, cannot find, because the person who knew where it was, you sent back up the stairs years ago. If this made you pause, if for a second you saw your own ledger, your own staple remover, then that's enough. You don't need to share this, but if you think someone else might need to hear it, well, it's here. That's all.
I might, if you're interested, tell you another time about the library book.
It's a smaller story about an overdue notice I sent and a man I never met. It's not dramatic. It's just about a stamp in a book. And what I thought I was stamping out